Fox Sports has released its official 2024 NFL record predictions. And in this video, you know what time it is. It's time to see if Fox Sports will shine on the bottom line. What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here to react to Fox Sports NFL record predictions for 2024. Going through the AFC, the NFC, from the AFC North to the NFC North, all 32 teams giving you my opinion on whether or not Fox Sports is truly foxy or phony. Do they know what they're talking about when it comes to the NFL this upcoming season? If that sounds good and you want more NFL record predictions here on the Bottom Line View, Gronk, spike the like button so that I know you like this content, and subscribe for more of those NFL reaction videos just like this. And of course, pop in the comment section and let me know your thoughts, guys, on Fox's NFL record predictions for all 32 teams, especially your team. Let me know if they're accurate or if they're false, foxy, or phony. Let's get to it, man. Let's begin with the reaction. Here are the NFL record predictions for Fox Sports. Let's start from left to right, AFC to NFC, shall we? Gronk, spike the like button. It begins with one of the most worst, horrific, catastrophic predictions that I have seen all offseason, which is the Miami Dolphins going 12-5. 12-5 over the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills, who sit at 10-7. Man, I could do an entire video just on this division alone, guys. Just on this division. We got the Miami Dolphins at 12-5. We got the Bills and the Jets at 10-7. And we got my beloved New England Patriots as the worst team in the NFL. More on that in a second. 12-5 Miami Dolphins. Okay. Yes, they have talent. There is no debating that. Yes, I like their coach, Mike McDaniel. And yes, the Dolphins are appetizing. They have an allure, a shine that is very compelling, right? They have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, Javon Holland. Odell Beckham's on the team now. Even Jonnu Smith has made his way. Calais Campbell, and so many other big names that are on this football team. But besides Teron Armstead, could you name a single Miami Dolphins offensive lineman? And I'm speaking to diehard NFL fans that are watching this video right now. I almost guarantee that 90% of the people watching this video could probably not name more than 2 Miami offensive linemen. I'm dead serious. Like, I'm concerned about their ability to protect Tua and therefore their ability to be consistent in the area that they must be consistent to be successful against the best teams. When you look at Miami's schedule, it actually really loads up pretty nicely in the beginning of the year. And that's typical for Miami. Like, they always start strong. Really, the Flores team started strong. The McDaniel teams have started strong. And then they fade down the stretch. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this year, especially, their toughest opponents come at the end of the season. And it's all in a row. They have an absolute gauntlet at the end of the year. And that is when the weather gets a bit more difficult and when you have to rely on your offensive line and your defensive lines a bit more to be gritty and come up with wins, and less on scheme and creativity and less on speed to be able to go and win those games, especially on the road. And this is a team that, yeah, they did add some decent pieces to help replace, but Christian Wilkins is one of their best players from last year. He left, right? Connor Williams left. Robert Hunt left. These players were fundamental to their success the last season. So, yeah, they have a decent quarterback that's capable of putting up big numbers, but anytime he's in a big game setting, he seems to fail or fall short. Yes, they have electric weaponry, and you could argue it's even better now, adding a running back to the fold, right? Shane could have a full season under his belt. I think they got better at tight end. I think that Odell should help the depth of the receiving core. Defensively, I think their secondary is talented. You could argue they maybe got better there slightly. Guys like Marcus May and Jordan Poyer, all veterans, Kendall Fuller. These guys were all added to the mix, right? They did lose Howard, but he wasn't at his best last year. So certainly a team that has a lot of talent. But to me, switching defensive coordinators, a lack of true upper echelon skill on the offensive and defensive lines, a quarterback that I think is system reliant a lot of the time, and a schedule that I think is really going to wear them down towards the end of the year. This is a team that I would argue is not a 12-win team or even close. I think they're a 9 or 10-win team, and they'll be one of those teams that they win one or they lose one, and that will dictate whether or not they make the playoffs. That's really what I think of them. I don't think they're taking a giant step forward. I think they've mostly remained the same. So, yeah, the Dolphins just have too many back-breaking flaws for me to put them as the winner of this division and a 12-win team. But you guys could disagree and let me know in the comments. Second place, they have the New York Jets, and it's important to understand that they did put the Jets over the Bills despite having the same record. So I will say that. The New York Jets at 10-7 is a little bit controversial for people, but I think if things kind of fall in line with how expectations should align for the Jets, right, this is a team that should be able to win 10 games. Like, they have arguably the best defense in the league. They have an awesome linebacker duo, a really good D-line. They've got one of the best corner trios, if not the best in football. They've got a defensive coach that's going to install a strong running game and a defensive philosophy. And they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, which is a significant upgrade over Zach Wilson, right? So, and then you look at what they did on offense. Mike Williams added to the mix, right? They did draft another receiver. Breece Hall's an elite running back. He'll be in my top 3 running backs in the NFL in my rankings coming soon. The wide receiving core is better, right, because of Mike Williams complementing a guy like Garrett Wilson. And then the O-line is better with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses and the guys that they added to that mix. So, yeah, the Jets are not just hype. I think the Jets do have a legitimate roster, but my biggest issue with the Jets is Aaron Rodgers and his potential health and consistency staying on the field, as well as how great is he still. And then on top of that, like, the O-line's got to mesh. The offensive scheme is pretty vanilla and basic, and I think the coaching overall is pretty pathetic, but I feel like the Jets still have too much talent to really avoid them. I think that they should be in the conversation for the playoffs. So 10 wins is not really crazy to me at all. I could see them winning 11 or 12 at their best. Then you've got the Buffalo Bills at 10-7, who I'm going to put in the thumbnail, and the Buffalo Bills being 2 games short of the Miami Dolphins, I think is crazy. Like, the Buffalo Bills are the Buffalo Bills. Like, how else do I put it? They've won this division, I think, 4 years in a row. And ever since Josh Allen has really ascended to elite status, they have been the best team in this division, and it's not even been close. Like, last year, yeah, the division did come down to the last game of the year, but this was a team that went through a lot last year. Like, people kind of forget that, they were going through kind of like stuff in the locker room, an identity crisis on offense and defense. They lost like half of their defense like throughout the season, right? And I actually could see the Bills being a more consistent team this year than they were last year, because I think they have a deeper, more kind of focused offense. Like, I think their offensive line is solid. Obviously, Allen is Allen. James Cook is an engine to this offense, and he became that over the last half of the season where they were one of the best teams in the NFL. They nearly knocked out the champs of the playoffs. Do you remember that, without like half their defense? The receiving core, I think it has more depth of talent despite losing Stephon Diggs, with guys like Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Coleman, the rookie, and so on, like Chase Claypool. There's many others there that could potentially make plays, along with an ascension from James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, these players. that I think will take steps forward. And defensively, McDermott always draws up a good game plan. He always does a great job fundamentally, and they're always very solid. They've got a very good secondary. Their linebackers are very sound and solid. The D-line is across the board decent. So to me, like, the Bills are not really going anywhere this year. A lot of people are crucifying them. A lot of people are saying that they're not going to be what they were, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not betting against Josh Allen. I'm certainly not taking an old man Aaron Rodgers or a overrated at this point Tua Tagovailoa turned the ball over Josh Allen. I'm just not doing that. And the Bills, until they're knocked out, I'm not going to discount them. I mean, this is borderline Niner, like Kansas City type territory, like Baltimore territory. Like, if Allen's healthy, if Kyle Shanahan's coaching the Niners, if Mahomes is healthy and Andy Reid's there, if Lamar is healthy, like, these teams are playoff teams. These teams are 10, 11, 12 win teams. Like, you just don't have teams that replicate that. So to me, I can't put the Bills, at third in their division. It just feels way too low. That's their floor. The New England Patriots sitting at 3-14 is, I just think, like, people want this to happen. Like, I don't think that is actually logical. I don't think that's actually something that you would put money on. I really don't. Like, if you do, like, good luck. You're probably going to lose your money. Like, the Patriots were in pretty much every game they played last year, and they lost numerous games because their field goal kicker could not make a field goal, like a manageable field goal. They could have won 6 or 7 games last year with ease. This is not even talking about having arguably the worst offense in the league, having arguably the worst quarterback play in the league. This is not talking about missing your 2 best defensive players, right? Like, you look at New England now, and on paper, they're better than anybody gives them credit for. Their defense is elite. There's no question about that. And Drake May has so much potential that putting them at 3-14 is just outrageous. Like, their receiving core is better. Stevenson is healthy. The O-line can't be any worse. Like, honestly, the coaching staff has evolved and changed a little bit. I think the offensive philosophy at which they're going to come with, they're going to play with more detail, I think more nuance in the running game and play action aspects. Like, even Jacoby Brissett raises the floor of this football team, and their defense is good enough to steal a couple games in their schedule. So 3 games is just crazy, especially considering, like, not just 3 wins, 3-14, but the fact that you have them 2 games worse than any other team in the league. Like, to me, that's crazy. You think the Patriots are that bad despite having an immensely better defense than the Commanders or the Panthers, despite having arguably a more talented quarterback than either of those teams, and those teams have 5 wins? You're saying that the New York Giants are 5 games better than the New England Patriots? The Patriots have a better roster than the New York Giants. Like, look at it from top to bottom, compare player to player. Like, to me, that's insane. That's just you wanting the Patriots to be the worst team in the league. And honestly, as a fan, if that does happen, I'm not sitting here saying that as like, that can't happen. I don't want that to happen. I'm saying that as like being an unbiased persona. Like, if the Patriots have the first pick, great. Like, honestly, great. Like, let's get another first overall pick and add it to Drake May in the future. Like, honestly, like, does that bother me? They're not going to win the Super Bowl. So to me, like, it doesn't bother me. It's just me saying, like, that's just bias. Like, there's something here that people don't want the Patriots to be any good. Like, that's not actually looking at the team, to me, at least. I don't know where you guys stand with that. Then we get to the AFC North. I actually like this one overall pretty much. I think my main complaint here is that the Steelers have a losing record, which just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I'm not going to predict it. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it. Like, Mike Tomlin does not have a losing record. And when you look at the Steelers, I made a video about them, and thanks to Steelers fans for watching it. Like, this is the best Steeler team since 2020, in my opinion, from a talent standpoint. They have an elite pass rush. Their O-line is better than it's been in years, and it's younger. I like their guard situation. I think their tackles are very promising. I think they have enough talent in the skill positions with the duo of running backs and George Pickens and Freiermuth. I think Russell Wilson's the best quarterback they've had since Ben retired. I think their defense is going to be top 10. I really like their linebackers. So for me, like the Steelers at 8-9, I actually have almost convinced myself that I'm going to put them ahead of Cleveland at this point. But neither of these teams are bad by any means. I think they're both borderline playoff teams, if not playoff teams. So for me, like, I would not honestly have, like, if I were to put a team with a losing record, it'd probably be Cleveland, just because Cleveland tends to be really good or like fall short of expectations in recent seasons. So to me, I could see them finishing like 8-9 or 7-10 in like a disappointing fashion, especially considering Deshaun Watson. But I also really like the Browns. Like I like everything about their roster for the most part. I don't think they have many holes. I just think that they've lost, an offensive line coach that was fundamental to their success. I think their quarterback situation is very shaky. And I think the defense could regress. And those things are all real. But I do think that they're still extremely talented on defense. They've got an elite secondary, one of the best defensive players in the league in Myles Garrett. I love Amari Cooper and David Njoku, and Nick Chubb will be back. Their offensive line will be healthy. There's no reason to think they'll be bad. But at the same time, I do actually believe in the Steelers this year. There's something about their team this year that makes me very interested. Now, with the Ravens and the Bengals, I actually, there's people complaining about the Bengals record prediction. I just think those people are idiots, to be quite honest with you. I mean, every time Joe Burrow plays, this team is elite. So as long as Joe Burrow is playing the full season, they're going to be a contender. And there's no denying that based on facts. Now, they also have one of the best receiver duos in the league. I think one of the most slept on offensive lines in the league. I'd actually probably put it in the top 10 now. The running game will be good because of it. The defense, I think, has improved at safety and overall the secondary, and I think the D-line is a little bit slept on as well. So I think the Bengals are a team that will win 13, 12 games, somewhere in that range, just because they have Joe Burrow, and this team has so much chemistry and continuity. It's hard to deny. The Ravens, I do agree, will take a slight step back, but with Lamar playing all 17 games, they should be in the playoffs. So I 100% agree with the Ravens' projection because they're still talented enough on defense. I think Zay Flowers has taken a huge step forward. Mark Andrews is back. The O-line's a bit shaky, but Derrick Henry certainly helps the weapons department. So for me, like, the Ravens are still in that conversation, but they should be a little bit worse in the regular season than last year. The AFC South, I think in terms of the order is fine. Like, I would have Jacksonville over the Colts. I think the Colts are a little bit overrated just because I don't know exactly what Anthony Richardson is, and I think the secondary is really bad. But I do like the offensive line a lot. I do like their running game a lot. I like their receivers enough, and I feel like Shane Steichen's a really good coach, and I like the defensive line in front seven. So I think that they'll be able to contend with a lot of teams because they're very strong up front. But I'm just wondering if Richardson has to go through some aches and pains before he really breaks out. I also do wonder about, just them being able to cover teams. Now, I think Jacksonville is a better, more complete team with a better quarterback and a more proven coach, at least. I do think the Jacksonville defense is going to be better than people think under Nielsen. I think the offense has enough weaponry to be intrigued by. ETN, Ingram. I think Thomas is going to have a huge rookie year. And looking forward to seeing Christian Kirk back on the field. I think the O-line improved, and the D-line is, I think, very solid. So I think Jacksonville is a sneaky wild card type of team. The Texans are only 10 wins, I think, is kind of their floor. I think they won 10 games last year, and they arguably are one of the most talented teams in the NFL now. They went from a team that was a little bit of a Cinderella story last year to a team that when you look at it now, like, okay, running back has improved. Receiver has become like arguably the best position in the league. They've got a good tight end. They've got a serviceable O-line and a great left tackle. They've got a good play caller, a good defensive coach. They've got obviously CJ Stroud, who to me is the fifth best quarterback in the league already, and he could be an MVP. The defensive line and the pass rush is excellent. With Danielle Hunter coming in, Will Anderson year 2, that could be a big jump. And then obviously Danico Autry. I think the secondary has some players like young guys like Petrie and Stingley who could take steps forward. They've got veterans in there too, like guys like Jimmy Ward. And the linebackers are pretty darn good. I think they improved with Al-Shaair. So to me, the Texans are like 12, 13 type win team, not 10. I think they're closer to like elite status than they are like they're good, but they'll win the division. I think Fox is too low on them. The Titans at 8-9 is interesting. I could see that happening. I think that 7-10 is probably a little bit more realistic. 6-11 is probably a little bit more realistic for them this year. I think they still need another year to kind of figure out the whole coaching thing, quarterback with Will Levis. I think they're still very young in important areas, but I could see 8-9. They certainly have the talent to do that. The Chiefs at 12-5, I'm not going to complain about. That's totally fine. That makes a lot of sense. They could even be a 14-win team, but, with everybody gunning for them, it's obviously hard to get to that level. The Chargers are 9-8. That's too high. I think they're closer to 7-10. I don't think this team is very talented at all. I think their secondary is mid. I think that their linebackers stink. I think their D-line is mid at best. And you're really asking Khalil Mack to kind of carry the pass rush if Joey Bosa is going to be on and off the field. The O-line, I like the tackle situation, but the interior is very suspect, and they have no weapons that you can really count on. Like Josh Palmer as your number one receiver or Ladd McConkey as a rookie. That is crazy. So, yeah, I think this team is like a 7 or 8 win team just based on coaching and quarterback play, but they're not very talented. They're like a 5 or 4 win team based on talent. Then you've got the Broncos at 7-10, which I think is way too high. They've got a rookie quarterback. Their O-line is one of the best areas of their team. I think their D-line is one of the best areas of their team. So if they were to perform above expectation, I think it's because their O-line and D-line is sneaky decent and Sean Payton's a good coach. But I'm concerned about all the other elements of the team. I don't think they're explosive enough on offense. I don't think they'll really be an elite running team or elite passing team. I think their rookie quarterback will not be able to rely on their defense consistently because it's just average. So, I think they're more of a 4 or 5 or 3 win team. The Raiders, I think, are better than the Broncos, and I would argue I think they might be better than the Chargers. I like their O-line and D-line a lot. I think they've got a lot of upside. If Devontae Adams can get through the Jimmy Garoppolo pains, if you watch the documentary, you know what I'm talking about. They've got a good enough weaponry, like Bowers, Adams, Myers. This is enough. Zamir White in the backfield. Gardner Minshew can manage a game. They've got a really good D-line. I think their defense is sneaky good. And I believe in Antonio Pierce in a Dan Campbell-esque type of fashion and way. So I feel like the Raiders should win like 8 or 9 games, honestly. I'd probably flip them I'd move the Broncos to 4 wins. I'd have the Chargers, probably at 7. And I'd probably put the Raiders at 8 or 9, to be honest. Then we've got the NFC. The Eagles at 12-5, I think, is accurate. I think they're talented enough. Their O-line is still very good. Their D-line is very solid. Not maybe as dominant as it was a year or two ago, but it's still very good. And then, the secondary should be improved. It's younger. It's faster. The coaching is much better at coordinator. I'm not a huge Kellen Moore guy, but I do think Vic Fangio is going to make their defense respectable again. I'm concerned about the linebackers. I'm concerned about how long it may take that offense to really figure it out. But they're just so talented on offense that you would just expect them to get there eventually. And so I look at them as a true NFC staple. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's just a matter of what's their potential, what's their ceiling, how good are they, how good does Jalen Hurts play this year? Because really, when you look at his track record right now, he's had one really good year. And otherwise, he's been a fine starter, a good starter even, but not somebody that's he's top 5 in the league. He's going to carry us. He's an MVP candidate. We maybe got a little bit too ahead of ourselves after that epic Super Bowl performance where he was amazing. But honestly, the team was so good that you could also argue that it was a little bit Nick Foles-esque. So just saying. But they're so talented again that they should be 11-12 wins and they should win the division, considering Dallas has taken a huge step back in personnel. The O-line is shakier than it's been in years. The defense has a new coordinator, and I think it's good, but it's not great. I think the linebackers are suspect. The safeties are good, but not great. I think that the run defense still has holes, and the offense is too Dak oriented. The run game seems pretty suspect with Zeke being your main ball carrier. Their receiving core is fine. It's good, but it's not great. CD's great. Cooks is still good, but he's not what he used to be. So the Cowboys, they feel like a 9-10 type win team this year, not the 12-win team they've been the last couple of years, especially with the coaching they have. If they had better coaching, I'd probably still have them as an 11-ish type of win team because they've got enough elite personnel. But to me, it's like, I don't know about Mike McCarthy. At 8-9, the Giants are like one of the most egregious predictions I've seen on this entire thing. Like, the Giants are terrible. Like, I like Brian Daboll. I like the defensive coordinator coming over from Tennessee, but the O-line is still shaky at best. They've got a good left tackle. That's about it. The receiving core, yes, they added Malik Neighbors, but everybody else, I mean, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, none of these guys scream even number 2 really capable targets. Like, they're whatever to me. Like, I'm not excited. The tight end, obviously, they lost Darren Waller to a rap career. And the running back, they lost Saquon, and they've got Devin Singletary, who's not moving the dial for any team in the league. And defensively, they've got a good pass rush, but the secondary is depleted. It's not good. So I look at this team, and I'm just like, Daniel Jones is going to be carrying this team to 8 wins. I just don't see it. I just don't see it, how this team is going to be there. I think they're one of the worst teams in the league. Washington, I would say the exact same thing. I don't even think they're 5 wins. Like, I think they're like 3. I don't think they're any good. I think Dan Quinn, might help the defense a little bit, but you look at the personnel and like they've got no corners that you can really count on. Their safeties are suspect. Their linebackers are good. Their interior D-line is good, but their edge rush is not the best. Despite their signings on the offensive line, they're still pretty basic up front. Their receiving core is honestly not as fantastic as you would have thought. Like Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. Like, Dotson has not lived up to the hype. McLaurin kind of had one of his worst seasons of his career last year. And tight end is non-existent. The running backs are basic. Like, Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be one of the worst rookie quarterbacks this year. I just think he's going to struggle given the way that he plays going to the NFL level behind this offensive line. Cliff Kingsbury, I'm not the biggest fan of as an offensive play caller. I just think Washington is probably going to be the worst team in the league, like, honestly. So, and the Giants are going to be right there with them, to be honest. You look at the NFC North, and this is probably the one that I think I might agree with the most. I think the Packers and the Lions are both going to be very, very good teams. I would just flip them. I think the Lions are going to be like 12 or 13 type win team. I think they're going to be very good. Maybe 11, but I think they're going to win the division. So I just believe in the Lions in terms of the fundamentals of what they have. I think their D-line is going to be very good against the run. I think their O-line is excellent. I think their running game is going to be there. I like Sam Laporta. I like Amon-Ra. They've got way less questions than the Packers. Like, yeah, the Packers are fun. They're sexy. They're exciting. They're very, very explosive, potentially. Jordan Love's a lot of fun. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. I like their receivers. I like the defense on paper, but they have not proven to me that they're great. I think both defenses have some questions, but I think the Lions actually have more depth. Maybe the Packers got a better pass rush, but I think the Lions are pretty exciting now in the secondary. I think they've improved there. I think the Lions are just going to be a headache for a lot of teams because they're just going to be able to run people over and set up the way they want to play. I think people are underestimating how good Sam Laporta is. Like, Jamison Williams could take a step forward. How good Jahmyr Gibbs could be this year. Like, they've got some young players heading in the right direction, too. Like, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell. All these guys are entering, like, year 2, year 3, year 4, like, getting into their prime. So, the Lions are, I think they're right there with the Niners. The Niners, they have at 13-4, which we'll get to. But the Detroit, I think Detroit should be first. The Packers just have more questions. I like the Packers, don't get me wrong. I've said that many times. But I think the O-line is, like, a little worse than people want to say. I think Jacobs was a little bit of a weird signing in some regard. Like, he was not good last year, like, diving into the stats. I think some of that had to do with he was out of shape. He was coming off a holdout. Like, I've got excuses for it, but at the same time, like, for whatever reason, they moved on from Aaron Jones and they signed Josh Jacobs. I don't know why. Is Jordan Love going to be playing as well as he did at the end of last year? Or is it going to be kind of a hit and miss a little bit? Like, Jared Goff has more of a proven track record and lineage. And, I like Jordan Love a lot and I think he's going to ascend. But, like, these are legitimate questions. Like, the defense has not been good for years. So, yeah, I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games, the Packers. But I think the Lions are just more of a solidified understanding of what they are. So I'd have them ahead. The Bears, I think, are a little bit overrated here at 9-8. I like the Bears. Don't get me wrong. I think they've got talent at receiver. I think the O-line is underrated. The defense is solid, but I don't really feel like they're going to be a team that wins as much as they're going to be a team that is fun. Like, I think they're going to be like a 7 or 8 win team that's like really fun to watch on offense, but they're also kind of turnover prone. And they have hit and miss moments. The run game will be hit and miss. I think the O-line will be hit and miss. I think the defense is a little bit worse than people want to project. The D-line is still, to me, not the greatest. So I look at the Bears, and I feel like that Caleb Williams' rookie year is going to be a bit of a roller coaster and not so much of a 9-8 type of vibe to me, personally. The Vikings at 8-9 would not shock me, given Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores are phenomenal coaches. But with Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, it's just hard for me to envision that. So I'd probably have them at like 6 wins, to be honest with you, but I could see 8-9 just because I have so much respect for those coaches. NFC South, we got the Falcons and the Bucks tied for first at 9-8. I'd flip it, but I understand it. My thing is like, how good is Cousins going to be off an Achilles? What's the defense going to look like? I don't know how good it is, honestly. I think it's pretty bad. And the Bucks just have more of a solid overall team. I think that the O-line is solid and improved. I think they've got a capable running back. I think they've got multiple good receivers. Baker, I think you could argue could be better than Kirk because of the injury. I think that Bowles kind of came in there and did his thing with the defense. I think the defense is very solid. Like, I don't think they're great, but they play the run well. They're fundamentally sound. They're aggressive. They've got good players at multiple levels of the defense, from Vita Vea to Antoine Winfield. And so I think the Bucks are more of a solid team, and they didn't really lose anything. They only really got better other than Carlton Davis leaving. I can't really think of something that really hurt them. So, and then the Saints and the Panthers, I actually agree with those records, I would say, for the most part. Like, the Panthers, maybe 1 win less, and the Saints, probably 7 to 8 wins, 6 wins maybe, like 6 to 8 wins in that range. So I understand that. The NFC West, the Niners at 13-4, I think is totally, accurate. I think the thing about the Niners that I'm very excited for is the secondary. I actually think the secondary could be the best it's been in San Fran since 2019. This is something I was thinking about when watching the NFC Championship on NFL Network today. It was just on TV. And I think Isaac Yiadom is a name that they got from New Orleans that I think could actually be a nice number 2 corner for them. Renardo Green, they also drafted in the 2nd round. He's somebody to look out for. So this is going to allow them, I think, to play more versatile coverages, like man-to-man a little bit more with Tarvarius Ward and Lenore, who are very good players. If they have a number 3 that's better than Ambry Thomas, I think they're going to have more faith in doing that. And Hufanga, allowing him to play as well is going to really help their run defense and their tackling and their overall playmaking ability. So I think the Niners defense, if it's coached a little bit better, I think the secondary could be better. I think the area where you're a little bit worried is like the D-line got maybe a little bit worse, but honestly, like, it's pretty much the same. Like Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd for Chase Young, Eric Armstead. Like, maybe their depth is slightly worse, but like, it's pretty much the same. The offense is identical. And honestly, I think Brock Purdy is probably going to be a better player this year. We've still got to figure out the Brandon Ayuk stuff. Maybe Debo, maybe Kittle get a little bit worse just due to age, but Debo looks like a stud in training camp right now, or in mini camp. So I don't know. I could see Debo actually having a little bit more hunger this year because he feels like he's gotten a little bit fat and happy, but I don't know. Like, the Niners are... the more that I think about it, like, that they're just sick. I don't have any reason to doubt them. The Los Angeles Rams at 10-7, I totally respect this one. I mean, we've got Stafford and McVay, and that's all I really got to say. And I rhyme, don't hate the player, hate the game. But the Los Angeles Rams, I think their defense is the most interesting aspect. Aaron Donald's gone, but they improved the secondary, and there are very, youthful elements that get you excited. The offense, I think the O-line is really good. Williams, I've been drafted on Underdog, these best ball things, and like, I don't understand why Kieran Williams is not talked about more. Like, why is Williams not like talked about as like a top 8 running back in the league? Because he definitely is. He was sensational last year, and he's going to be utilized a ton, and Puka is a beast. And as long as Stafford's healthy, I think they win 9 or 10 games, maybe 11. The Cardinals 8-9, I think that's too high. I'd flip the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I think the Cardinals are like a 6-win team. Their defense is putrid. I like the offense. Seattle, I like the defense a lot. I like the coach a lot, and I'm excited for Geno and these weapons to go to work. I mean, they've got a good running back, good receivers. Noah Fant could have a better year this year. I think Seattle could win like 9 or 10 games and make the playoffs. So I'm actually way off on Seattle here, but that's just my opinion. The Cardinals are a lot worse in my opinion. But hey, that's my take on Fox Sports record predictions. I think the most egregious takes are the Patriots being the worst team by 2 games, the Dolphins winning 12 games, the Steelers having a losing record, the Texans not being better than they are, the Broncos actually winning 7 games, the Raiders being the worst team in their division, the Giants actually being respectable, which I think they'll be far from it, the Commanders winning 5 games in general, the Packers, being higher than the Lions, I don't think is egregious. I think it's bold. And that's pretty much it. The Cardinals being better than Seattle, I think, is a little egregious. But hey, that's just me. That's just me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, spike the like button. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.